What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 8 of Liquid Life, featuring Seth Coleman, aka Knife Face, aka Nada 5150. He's an MMA fighter, a musician, and a fellow brother in recovery, and just overall a fascinating human being. And I'm super excited to have him on the podcast today, where we'll talk about water, go through this kind of little docket of 4 amazing quality waters from around the world. This episode, we're kind of focusing more on the United States and these spring and mineral water sources here. But the last one is a pretty crazy water from Peru that we have on here, Socosani, and their sparkling version, which I tried off the show a few days ago and absolutely love. So we have it on the show today. So thank you so much for joining us, brother. We're grateful to have you.
Thanks, Preston. I appreciate you. I didn't know I love sparkling water.
Yeah.
Keeps them in the house, so it's nice to have.
What do you keep in the house?
Dude, I don't want to, can I say brands?
Of course.
Okay, I got LaCroix's in the fridge.
Okay.
No flavor. Yeah, because Jason won't send me Miracle Seltzer.
Sheesh. Okay, shout out to Jason Wright, episode 1 of the podcast, our mutual friend, co-founder of Miracle Seltzer. And Seth and I met when I was picking up some wrist bracelets from Jason for the Born and Raised party here in Los Angeles. And Seth was over there hanging out, and I'd seen you online a little bit here and there, and didn't know you were a fellow brother in recovery until that Jason connection.
Yeah, dude. It seems like all the best people, all my solid motherfuckers, all the cement in the bricks of life have been people in recovery, all my homies. And the fact that you need Jason especially. I mean, I texted him because I'm just like, hey, I'm on your friend Preston's podcast and I've came to publicly defame you. I'm gonna talk shit about you because that's our relationship. But no, really, he's he knows I'll get all gooey if I talk about my friendship with him.
Oh,
because we lived in the halfway house together.
really?
Yeah, and I attempted suicide in that halfway house, and he wouldn't let me kill myself. And that was when I was 20 years old, and I'm gonna be 33 in a month or something. It's him and the other fellas that we're all still in a group chat together and send memes, and everybody's married and have kids and businesses and stuff, and it's just damn, that's such a trip. Yeah, so we all talk every day, but all those cats would come and visit me when I was in a mental institution at I was 6 months sober and depressed as shit, but we're all locked in now.
Locked in.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a powerful story.
Yeah, I didn't mean to come out the gate swinging with some fucking.
Nah, that's how we're doing it. Okay, and that's some real shit, right?
I mean, this is water.
I actually, so Seth pulled up with the energy drink to the water podcast. It's 9 a.m. I've had my tea before. I've been trying to be a good boy and not eat food before this so that my palate isn't all messed up when tasting the water.
Nice.
But what I want to do is I want to test the TDS of this energy drink. This is #1 on the podcast today, so let's do it.
Bucked up.
Do you know what a TDS meter is?
No.
Okay, so this is total dissolved solids. It measures what the mineral content, what the organic matter in the water is, because water is not just water. So with LaCroix, for example, that water is reverse osmosis, purified water. And so they're using municipally sourced tap water, stripping everything away from that water, and then adding natural flavors, which are a list of over 270 chemicals, which this 100% has in it. And they get banned by the FDA when they get linked to some sort of crazy neurological toxin effects and stuff. So you don't want to be drinking natural flavors on a regular basis. And then aluminum cans are all lined with plastic. And so you're not only getting the microplastic leaching in from that, but you're also getting the aluminum leaching into the liquid you're drinking. And it happens more so in water like LaCroix that is reverse osmosis. So the TDS is as close to 0 as possible because water is inherently a solvent and will dissolve whatever it's stored in over a period of time. With mineral waters, especially in glass, you don't have to worry about that because the higher the mineral content, the less of a solvent it is. So I'm sure the TDS of this is probably pretty high. I have no idea. I've never tested an energy drink before, but we're freaking ripping it. And let's go for it. So you want to pour a little in this glass?
Yeah.
Bucked up, baby.
Bucked up, please still sponsor me.
Okay, so it's clear. So there's probably no artificial food colorings in this, which is great.
Natural Miami flavor.
What is the Miami flavor?
Tastes like Miami, man.
Okay, if you had to describe Miami, what do you think it would taste like?
I'm thinking about a blazer with my sleeves rolled up. I'm thinking about it tastes like, the brine of the Atlantic hitting me in the face. I'm thinking about coconut oil on a woman.
Coconut oil on a woman.
I'm dumb. I'm sorry. I'm gonna drink it anyway.
Okay, so you're seeing it's registering at like a high 300 on the parts per million, which is total dissolved solid, also measured as milligrams per liter.
Okay.
And so that is actually classified as a mineral water. So to be a mineral water, it has to be 250 milligrams per liter or higher. And most spring waters are like in between 100 and 250. And then purified water is usually in between, 10 to 40 milligrams per liter. So that measures sodium, magnesium, potassium, calcium, these things that are good electrolytes for our body in the water. But with the energy drink, you're probably getting a lot of taurine, caffeine, and all these other things.
There's a lot of caffeine.
All right, you want to do a little rip of this?
What do I do?
Drink it. So we can put water in there.
So this is like a mineral water.
It is like a mineral water. It's a manufactured mineral water.
Well, that's all I had to hear.
Yeah, there you go. So cheers. I'm gonna imaginarily drink my energy drink.
This swag.
Delicious.
I'm gonna be real chatty and
You're gonna be flying off the couch.
I'm just anywho.
Awesome. So to chase that, shall we do the first water on here?
Please.
We'll get into it. All right, so this is Sedona, purely Sedona Artisan Spring water. It has a total dissolved solid of 140 milligrams. So this is a living water, meaning that it's a naturally occurring spring source. And it's not like a manufactured water, basically. So most water brands use municipally sourced tap water and then purify it with their own purification process, which is usually kind of a marketing thing. So
it's straight from the earth.
It's straight from Pachamama. Yeah.
Pachamama?
Yeah, Mother Earth.
Oh.
Yeah, Pachamama. So this is a pretty cool brand. I love the tag, the branding. I like the cap. It feels like kind of like a wine bottle a bit. Now it's probably gonna taste a little like energy drink. One day we'll have multiple cups, but we're gonna test the TDS and see what that TDS level is on here. And what's interesting is people are like, oh, water is just water. But when you start tasting some waters back to back, you really kind of get to notice the mineral compositions or so, and how that affects the flavor and taste. Cheers. Let me test yours. I'll take a little rip first.
So it's naturally bubbly.
This one is carbonated. So there are naturally carbonated water sources. There's also effervescent sources, which means there's smaller amounts of carbonation. So it's like in between still and sparkling, that's effervescent. So the Peruvian one is naturally effervescent, but they add carbonation. I love carbonated water. And so I like the intense bubbles. And so those intense bubbles are a bit harder to find in nature. And so the TDS is testing at 131 parts per million, marketed as 140. That's really good. That's really close to what it's marketed as. Respect to purely Sedona.
Artisan water.
So we're kind of chatting about your relationship to Catholicism and your fighting. When we came in here and you saw this communion cup that I had on one of my paintings, can you kind of talk about what transublimation?
Transubstantiation.
And this concept.
Yeah, this is a distinctly Catholic belief in that the communion is not a symbolic gesture to symbolize like the Last Supper, where Christ said, this is my body and this is my blood, eat it, drink it. I'm paraphrasing, but that when in the mass, that like a priest who's been doing his thing for a long time does. All the Catholics in the comments are gonna like roast me and butcher me for not like explaining this, but give me a break. I'm doing my best. And but basically that is the literal transformation, transubstantiation, transformation. The bread and wine turns into the body and blood of Christ, and we are consuming that, and that's like the essential part. It's in every mass, everywhere around the world, every day. You you have communion. And but before that, like before it's this ordinary cup of wine, ordinary cup of ordinary wafer, and then afterwards it is the flesh and body. So it's like at first, if they call it adoration, where like if you were to have that art piece, and if transubstantiation had already occurred, where the priest had blessed this, then you would literally have like the flesh and blood of Christ in your art. But that would be blasphemous, I would say, because like there's in a lot of churches they'll have adoration where they'll have it like in like a special like thing, and we'll just go sit in God's presence. And it's interesting, it's fascinating. I think that there was like when I was 12 is when I got exposed to Catholicism, beyond like what you see in pop culture. And that was probably like my first spiritual experience was during adoration. Just like you just sit and like meditate and like be in the presence of God.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
And so was this in North Carolina where you grew up?
Yeah.
And were you raised Catholic? How did you end up at this church at 12? Were you by yourself? Were you with your family? Were you kind of on this path of addiction and all this sort of thing?
Yeah, actually, like, I've been kicked out of like every public school in the county, just fighting. And I love fighting. It's really a lot of fun. But couldn't keep it in the ring growing up. And my folks eventually were just like, yo, just like I got other kids to worry about, like go fuck up your life. And what I was going to this church that was up the street because like I no, that didn't happen later. It's like I started going to this church, right? And they liked tapping me around, like no one kicked me out or anything. And I just felt like it was a safe place.
Mm.
And what I started going to school there, and I just dug it, learning about Catholicism and such. And yeah, I like got my first communion and stuff, but I didn't get confirmed until like last year. I stopped going for like ever. I mean, because I ended up like getting sober and not like going the Jesus route. But
Yeah.
now that I'm sober, now that I'm like a grown up, like I need to have a further relationship with God. So I went back to the church. And
I have a very similar experience with that. And I think we have similar amount of time too in AA and sobriety. I celebrated 10 years. You have something like that?
I'll do like 13 in September, but
Amazing.
it's all in one day,
Amen to that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like AA was my church for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing is it is so open and it allows for so much personal exploration. I mean, on what page 88, it's like be quick to see where religious people are right. Well, I don't really need that because there's so much growth happening in AA for the first number of years. And then I started looking at all these other spiritual texts and exploring these things. And for me, being raised in church, I was resentful at it because I felt like I had no choice in it. And when I was young, of course, being punk rock, it's just like, I don't want to do this. If you tell me I have to do something, I ain't going there. And recently in the past number of years, kind of stepping back into that and seeing where religious people are right. And it really has opened up a lot of kind of challenges, but a lot of beauty along this new path, and being able to take that to recovery and help people even further through all these other kind of new values and new spiritual challenges, really.
Yeah. That's really really well put. I mean, like I think like the growth, like some people talk about AA when I first got in there, like this is spiritual kindergarten, like this is where you learn the basics of like whatever we missed growing up that made us feel like we had to seek something outside of our realm, seek a feeling, a numbness or whatever to like feel normal, like trying to fill a God-sized hole in your heart with whatever you can drink or smoke,
Mm-hmm.
and as like as we grow and like are called to do, like as we become conscious of God, we become conscious of the higher calling, and our world therefore expands, and we need to rely on God even more now. And I think that's like an ever-growing thing until we're reunited with the Great Spirit and we leave our body. I'm getting pretty heady in here.
I mean, this is what it's all about. Like water, like art, is a conversation starter. And for us, at Liquid Life Wellness Water, like we bring all the education, we bring all these facts and opinions about water, and eventually we'll have our own product. But everyone has their own experience that leads to them to their decision-making processes with water, with what art they like, with their spiritual journey, if there is one, with their religion, right? And it's all about that conversation here. And I think that's something that doesn't really exist in those traditional systems. It's like, this is the answer, this is what we're selling, this is the only right way. Same with corporations and brands. It's like, this is our product, this is what we're selling, this is why it's bad. And I understand why that exists and that happens, but again, coming back to AA and being able to be so fluid and being that spiritual kindergarten, there's a sense of playfulness that kids have, right? And being able to kind of exist in that and not be so rigid, like this is the only way, because that's just not the human experience. At least that's not the human experience that I want to be living.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one interesting thing to mention, we had the first viral clip from this podcast, and it was one of my friends from church who's a celebrity stylist talking about how we met, and he was wearing Rick Owens at church.
Swag.
And people freaked out. They're like, Rick Owens is the devil. He does all these, dark magic rituals, which is true. That is objectively. I mean, you look at Lala Michelle.
I didn't think he was. Is he actually pouring that intent into his art?
I mean, he's definitely a dark Sith Lord.
He's dark Sith boy. Cool, dude.
For sure.
All right, respect Rick Owens. Like, that's the process.
And there's a clip of someone at some convention chasing, I think, Complex Con, chasing Lala Mitch around his partner.
Yeah.
And getting her to say, like, I love God or something.
Oh, whoa.
And she's like, absolutely not. I mean, she looks like a witch. She's definitely a witch. For sure. But my point in this and bringing this up is, you're out here just absolutely almost like 1v1 murdering someone on site, right? And you bring
Never heard it like that. That's so cool. Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, I watched some of the King of the Street stuff that you mentioned in another podcast this morning with the eye gouging, and it almost made me throw up at 8 a.m. while I'm hanging out with my babies because how intense it was. And you're here bringing, this word and this spiritual faith, and you're bringing light into darkness, and you're bringing literally the crucifix into the ring, right? So what is your kind of perspective on this? Like, you are a man of faith, you have these spiritual principles, you have these beliefs, but you're also participating in these realms that there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of trauma. I don't want to say evil, because in a way I feel like evil is almost humanity to its nth degree when we get into our character defects.
Nice.
In fear.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of balance that out, your relationship with God, your spiritual journey, your faith, and your work life, and that?
I love that you asked about that, and I really appreciate your noticing too. Fighting and the journey that this life and like music and like the grind and all this has brought me closer to God, almost like a second sobriety where I'm fully reliant on God. From the moment I wake up, like it takes, like I started praying more than I've ever prayed before, ever. When you got somebody, like I don't really like, I'll study my opponent's tapes and like make a plan, but like I just assume that they have my picture on their wall and they're waking up every day thinking I want to smoke this guy. And so I'm reliant on God, like God, like protect me, God, let me do my best. God, if I'm hungry and I can't eat, like God, fill me, God, give me the strength. Me and one of my teammates, we start every workout with a prayer. And every time I enter the ring, I ask God to bless me. And then I bat the ring 3 times for the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit to bless us in the ring. And yeah, like it's when I mean, like, I don't want to like sound dramatic, but
Please do.
yeah, I mean, it's not like King of the Streets where anything could happen, but like even the mates in the King of the Streets, they'd be sensible. They wouldn't say like, oh, it's a fight to the death, but you never know.
But ancestrally, there's actually so much tied into
Yeah.
religion and fighting to the death. And so in a way, you're tapping into this in a very contemporary context that is in kind of the scope of entertainment.
Yeah.
But there's something very deeply genetically coded in us, especially as men, and probably where our ancestors came from, where that is a very real thing.
Yeah.
And we've had many people who came before us who are in our DNA that have fought to the death over religious conflict or wars or disagreements. So it's interesting to kind of see how that plays out in 2025.
Dude, I mean, like, it'd be weird. I mean, like, it might sound weird, it might sound crazy, but like religion, I don't want to say it made me want to fight, but like I've always fought, I've always competed in combat sports. This is, take out the word fight and say like I'm a soccer player. If I'm playing the game of fighting, there's a lot of representatives, that there's not as many heroes, that like little me would have looked up to, like in the UFC or whatever, and like people who are like going to mass and thanking God and blessing the ring and blessing their opponents and all this and that. It's like who aren't talking a bunch of shit, or like getting DWIs or beating their wives or like what have you. Like I see a lot of these role models from other parts of the world acting right, and I'm just like, okay, well, where are our Christian heroes? Where are the men who will stand up and like be a role model? And I might not look like that, but I can do my best to represent that. That sounds crazy. That I don't want to get like controversial, but like, yeah, it's like sometimes God needs a fighter.
Bro,
It sounds corny, but yeah, like
that is, I like that tagline. God needs a fighter.
yeah.
And all of us are warriors and fighters in our own regards. And the deeper I get into this water business, I realize that business is basically today's version of war.
High key.
And these men, me included, just trying to murder each other through business. It's pretty wild. And for me as an artist, I've been a full-time artist for many years now. You do get a sense of that, but it's not anything like dealing with these big water companies now and seeing these strategies and intention and like the actual behavior behind things. It's really eye-opening.
I mean, yo, if we're getting really dramatic, you're on the front lines, my guy. You're on the forefront of of the fucking feet. So like, I remember when I was 12 and I was in Catholic school, I remember like this nun, Dr. Wanna Mueller, she was like, like the last wars will be fought over water.
Really?
And I was like, that's scary, like, I mean, think about it, mate. Like, I mean, these businesses, these companies, who owns this water that's coming out of the earth to drink? And like, I'm drinking whatever, assuming that it's as clean as anything else, not knowing what I'm putting in my body.
Yep, the most essential part of human life is on this physical realm. I think there's the most essential part on the spiritual realm as well, right? But yeah, the water wars, I call the audience water warriors.
Water war.
And the liquid lifers.
Liquid life.
I don't know if they like that, but we'll see how it develops. And I think there have been water wars happening for so many times throughout history, right? We look at these places that are highly high population density areas. They're usually around water because you're able to transport things as well as have food sources through the water. But as far as drinking water goes and Mother Earth's water, there's an interesting concept called primary water. Basically, that you can keep drilling deeper and deeper, and you'll tap into various aquifers. There are people who have done this accidentally, oftentimes when digging very deep oil wells, and oftentimes you'll get brackish water, but you'll sometimes stumble across amazing quality, massive aquifers. So realistically, I do believe that on one side, yes, there are definitely water wars that have been happening that will continue to happen, but also as technology increases and people become more and more aware of really the water that we have available underneath us, it's just pretty incredible. But these big water companies, Nestle, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, there's 5 brands, there's 2 other that I'm missing, own, I think, 85% of all of consumer packaged goods. And I hate the word consumer. I talk about this a lot. I think it's dehumanizing. And there seems to be, honestly, an anti-human agenda with companies like Nestle, who buy up all the water rights.
Are we calling them out right now?
Yeah, I call them out often. And if I get hit, you know what I mean? Like, you know who did it?
Oh.
But it kind of comes back into this idea of war, like going into battle. The guy who started Nestle would buy land around people who had aquifers and drill down, tap into that person's aquifer and suck them dry, and then sell the city back that water that they were using.
Yeah, like, how do you not feel like a supervillain doing that? Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
I you know, and maybe, you know, having some grace for this person, he felt like he had to provide. He was in his character defects. He got greedy, right? There's a reason why devil and evil are one letter away from each other, and God and good are one letter away from each other.
I never heard that.
You never heard that? One of my pastors at church never heard that. This church I'm wearing breaks down the etymology of a lot of these Christian themes, right? And how they actually relate to the body, how they actually relate to deeper spiritual texts that kind of link many belief systems together, and how they relate to our chakras even. Anyway, I digress, but yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, and there are people, there are stewards of water in this world who do respect Mother Earth, who do want the best for people, who want to give back and be generous. And my goal with Liquid Life is to educate people first and foremost about the water we're drinking, to entertain them, because water is a conversation like art, but also through the products that we're offering, be able to actually innovate and move the ball forward and tap into these places, whether it's us drilling our own wells or partnering with amazing quality mineral sources that haven't been bought out by the big guys yet, to actually further be of service to humanity.
Excuse me just 1 sec.
Yeah.
Can I use the bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, cheers to cut in and out. Sweat. We tapped out, now we tapped in. Rude boy.
I like it.
You want to finish the rest of this water? We'll check into Cascade Mountain, Blue Falls, Oregon, sparkling water.
Take us to Oregon.
Yeah, we're going to Oregon. I actually don't think I've ever had this water,
Mm.
but they have a unique screen printing process to make their label, which is quite beautiful.
Let's look at the label.
Yes, you want to look at the label?
Yeah.
Shall I pour your glass first?
1911. It's a good year.
What happened in 1911, Seth?
Yes. What? I don't fucking know. I just
I feel like you could low-key be like a history nerd.
history. I mean, yeah. I don't fucking know, dude. Cascade Mountains. I didn't even know. No, I'm not even gonna pretend. I don't know what was happening in Butte, Oregon in 1911. Besides, maybe they discovered this cascade.
Probably beaver trapping and gold.
Gold. Yeah, they were.
Beaver trapping was the biggest industry
Really
in the Manifest Destiny area.
big money in beavers.
81 parts per million, TDS of 81. It's marketed as 150. The interesting thing that I noticed when looking at the total dissolved solid numbers is the calcium to magnesium ratio is 2 calcium to 1 magnesium. A lot of these waters, the calcium ratio is off the charts higher than the magnesium ratio. We are mostly magnesium deficient these days due to what we're eating. And so we need more magnesium, really. And that's where this next mineral water comes in, Adobe Spring. We'll get into that here in a second. But 2 to 1 is pretty good, actually, for most waters. I'm excited to try this. This is a lower TDS than the first one.
We didn't clink glasses. Okay, thank you.
It's a bit more basic. There's more of a kind of a baking soda kind of aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
And then this one, there's actually a sweetness to it. Definitely not the energy drink that was in here earlier.
Is that my glass or your glass?
No, this is my glass. I mean the energy drink residue that's on here.
No, I can taste the difference between this one and that one, and no offense to the artesian water, but this one from Butte.
You like it better.
I like it better.
Yeah, it's interesting. We haven't had a water from Oregon on the show. This is of course from Sedona, Arizona.
We're all in America right now.
Yeah, all in America right now.
American glass.
Yep, exactly. Actually, more like, you know, West Coast type waters as well. On the East Coast, the eastern seaboard, you'll get a lot of naturally occurring uranium in the water sources because just of the soil composition and the geology, the rock structures. Usually not in amounts that are super damaging, but it kind of bastardizes a lot of that area of the country for water sources.
Holy smokes, I had no idea.
Yeah, there's so much in the water that we're drinking that you would be shocked to find out.
Dude, well, did Jason, previous guest, friend of ours,
Miracle Seltzer.
friend of the show, Miracle Seltzer.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. We're from Wilmington,
Yeah.
North Carolina, and like Wilmington's got like, it's like Flint, Michigan quality water.
Really?
It's like there was like an expose on it. Like this is like in our last few years, there was like so many microplastics dumped in the water that you can't boil it out. You can like shower in it or anything. And like, no, first off, like no, like they had known about it, but like didn't say anything. And it's like, I had no idea. I grew up drinking from the tap, you know, drinking from the hose. I had no idea that stuff wasn't too good for you. I mean, the lack of magnesium is interesting because like I take magnesium now and
Me too.
feel the benefits of
Yep.
having the magnesium. It's like, oh, we would normally get this in our water.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Not every water source is a different mineral composition, but there are some that are higher, especially this next one, and we'll get into a second. But that's interesting about Wilmington versus Flint. For me in Liquid Life, one of my dreams is to actually drill artesian wells in these areas that have horrible tap water and provide amazing quality, naturally occurring living water to these communities. And building that into our company as an internal kind of nonprofit, but really a 10% tithe, meaning 10% of your income goes towards giving back to people. And so I've been trying to practice that in my own life. And it's really hard when I sell a big painting for the first time in a little while. And it's like, okay, well, but
You practice that. You got that built into your.
it's a new thing. It's taken me a long time.
Dude, I respect that big time.
And what I've noticed, and there's actual evidence to kind of back this up, that the rate on return on money that you not necessarily tithe, but give back to people, you have like a 1.6 time rate of return for that money. Crazy.
Yeah.
But money is just energy at the end of the day. Sure, it's a physical thing, but you talk about people like Nestlé who are just in the pursuit of destruction and money and taking over and control and greed. Money is that frequency, so you'll tap further into that. And the only way to be satiated is to keep going with it, right? And that's how we get people who are super greedy and control everything, and all these monopolies and duopolies and oligopolies that basically control our corporatocracy we live in.
Some big words.
Oh, big words.
Funny.
Anyway, I digress.
Are we on to the next cup?
Yeah, let's go for it, because we're talking about these super high magnesium levels. Anyway, I'm gonna put Wilmington on my hit list because I have Flint #1 right now, because it's such a topic of conversation. They still have shit water.
It's crazy. Just like how many days, like over. It's an embarrassing amount of time. Just like, yo, this is a crisis.
Yep. And there's so many amazing nonprofits that. And you know, semi-religious institutions that drill wells in other countries, and that's great. Yeah. But also, why do we still have Flint, Michigan? And there needs to be people focusing on the people here also. And so I hope to fill that role. The problem with that is the legalities of it, the political nature of it, the financial nature of it. It becomes much more challenging, and so. I want to help solve that. And I know it's possible. Anything is possible. I know this is possible. And I'm not going to limit us to just the United States, but focusing energy there as well. because I do believe that there are artesian wells and there are living water sources that can make sense that haven't been found or explored or not aware of in these traditional hydrogeological studies and senses. So anyway, we'll see.
Can I crack this one? No,
Dude, go for it. No, you crack
you're having
it.
fun opening the bottles. I'm just like,
You like opening bottles?
I don't know. I wanted to turn.
Yeah.
You got 2 out of 4.
You get 2 next.
Swag. Sparkling mineral. I'll let you introduce.
No, I like you introducing it actually.
Adobe Mountain, naturally sourced since 1992. Now that's the year I was born. Good year. Sparkling mineral spring water, carbonation added, California, USA. All right. So this is the more magnesium, 35 milligrams, 9%. Ooh, whoa.
Didn't explode on you.
You guys saw that? Okay. I'm gonna copy off my old friend.
Yeah, you know the technique. You know to pour on the side to maximize the carbonation. So you never pour directly into the bottom.
Nah. Rookie mistakes. I knew that. So you tested though, because I don't know how to operate such machinery.
Well, I'm gonna teach you.
Oh.
You ready? It's pretty high tech.
Okay. Give us some folks.
All right, so we turn it on, and then it goes to 0 and make sure it's at 0 so there's no other residue on there. You put in the water. Dip it. You can just let it rest. Okay. Let it vibe. With my orchid on top of it.
I love this.
Yeah, Jacqueline made this with I think 8 orchids or 9 orchids for our wedding. I think it was some sort of table decoration or bouquet, and it keeps blooming.
It's kind of your wedding.
Yeah,
that's precious.
This is precious. We like orchids. Orchids are very spiritual flower. Well, all flowers are. Okay, so it's testing it.
315 ppm.
Now with the carbonated waters, it'll actually mess with the sensor, so it's hard to get a confirmed exact reading of it. So I let it vibe for a little bit. Just let it vibe for a little bit and get an average reading. This is technically a mineral water, very close to what it's marketed as. And this water is super interesting. Cheers. Adobe Springs, Northern California, Patterson area, San Jose, Redwoods area, but a little further east. The highest magnesium content of any water for the ratio of its TDS, total dissolved solids, out of any water I've ever found or I think really exists.
This is it.
This is it. So shout out to Adobe Mountain. I found this water just on an Instagram ad or something and saw the magnesium ratio and instantly it was like, what's going on with this water? 97 milligrams per liter of magnesium, which is very high. So that piqued my interests, met with them. They're awesome dudes and just absolutely fell in love with this water and we become friends. So shout out to Adobe Mountain. I give all of my friends who are kind of on this podcast or associated with a little bottle of this and get their thoughts on it.
That's rad.
How much magnesium do you take a day? Do you know the milligrams? You know the type? There's 12 types of magnesium.
My coach, he was educating me on this.
Yeah.
I'd been suckered to whatever Instagram sold me. And he was like, there's a bunch of different, your body absorbs this and that.
Yeah. And your body, especially with magnesium, will get used to particular types of magnesium. So the interesting thing about this magnesium is it's bioavailable, meaning that it's naturally occurring rather than some supplement that's kind of lab created. And so it interacts with your body a bit differently. There's chelated magnesium, magnesium glycinate, all sorts of types of magnesium. And my body and our bodies get kind of used to, I don't want to say addicted, but build up a tolerance of particular types of magnesium. So it's good to kind of switch between magnesium sometimes. That I found in my experience.
This is so cool. And this whole experience has been so educational. I've really been getting a kick out of this. I'm glad you do this.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. And I said before the podcast, I'm so curious to see how this kind of educational hour on water affects you in your fighting, because I know water and water cuts. That was one of the first things I asked you. What are water cuts like? How's that relationship being a professional fighter to water?
Dude, well, the nature of the water cut. Well, when people ask about fighting, they often ask about the weight cut and what weight class you fight in, and what fighters do to manipulate their weight to weigh in at a certain weight and then soak it back up. So I I'm like currently like 160 pounds, but I'll weigh in at 135 pounds.
Sheesh.
So
And what's the percentage of that, or maybe not percentage, but the poundage that is water? Is that all water?
no. They say like it depends on who you ask. Excuse me, a little hoarse.
Good thing you have some water.
Now, about 15 pounds. Now, like I've heard that the body weight will fluctuate around 12 pounds of water weight throughout the course of the day. Because, while I'm trying to cut this weight, I'm like checking the scale nervously, like, oh my God, am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? And it's like, chill. Like 12 pounds of that is water. Like you weigh yourself in the morning, you'll weigh something different at night. Not because you ate anything particularly heavy, but just the amount of water, how much you peed that day, how much caffeine you've had. So many factors.
Because caffeine is a diuretic.
Caffeine is a diuretic.
And so when you're weight cutting, I'm sure you're having 0 sodium, right?
Yes. So like the dehydration process that I do, and like I don't think it's a big secret or anything, is like I take a bunch of natural diuretics in like tea, like dandelion root tea, and I end up just pissing like a racehorse.
Yeah.
Well, first I get my body acclimated to that amount of liquid by drinking like, a gallon a day water.
And so where are you getting this gallon of water?
Fucking the gas station. Like I'm just
Okay, so you go to what gas station?
Any
gas station. Is it purified water?
Don't care. Don't look. I know. Like I'm not saying this is the healthy choice.
I'm genuinely curious.
Okay.
Because I just want to kind of understand your thought process behind it, because there's people who do this, right?
Yeah.
And so you probably at the gas station, about 99% sure it's purified water, and people go to stores to buy alkaline water or ionized water. Those are all just purified tap waters. You can literally get that water that you're getting at the gas station out of your water filter. If you get a good water filter like a Brita or something like this, there's a whole app called Oasis. They test all sorts of different water filtration things, but you can literally get a TDS meter, go test the purified water, see what the TDS, but you have to, it'd actually probably be good for you to drink distilled water before, because that has 0 parts per million. There's nothing in that water.
That's actually recommended by a lot of folks, because like you're ahead of the game. Because once you get rid of like it's probably maybe like 2-3 weeks out that you start the dehydration process.
Wow.
I mean, to make it gradual, there's some people that will sit in a sauna in their full, sauna suit and like just sweat like hell, and to make that process, but that's like getting down to the fucking wire, and you don't want to wait last minute and cram for the test. You want to study slowly over time, right? So we, like I'll start drinking like 2 gallons of green tea, caffeine free, to just start the pissing process, and then pick it up to dandelion root tea, 2 gallons. It's a lot of fluid, and
you're making this with distilled water.
Yeah,
Well, there's a hack. There's a hack right there.
Distilled water, because then you're not adding omitting all salts from like my diet, and making sure that I'm not drinking like Gatorade or anything that is any electrolytes that are gonna make me retain any water.
That's really sodium.
Sodium. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Those headaches must be crazy.
Yeah. It's a dangerous process. You can I mean, by my own, like, I like brewed like some super, super strong dandelion root tea and like kind of hurt myself, like
Your kidneys or something?
my kidneys. Yeah. So I'm not gonna do that again. And
Such an alcoholic move.
yeah, I'm
I'm gonna make an ayahuasca dandelion situation.
it was when I went to the gym and like told my coaches, when they were like, why? Like I was trying to
So do better.
Yeah.
More is better.
More is better, dude.
Yeah, Gatorade. So electrolytes are basically the electrical. What?
It's what plants crave.
Gatorade.
Yeah.
Gatorade. What plants crave.
No.
The problem with Gatorade is there's so much sugar in it. You can literally drink these high content mineral waters, not when you're cutting, but for hydration, because the electrolytes that you're getting in a Gatorade or a sports drink like that can be had through mineral water without any of the artificial coloring, artificial sweeteners, sugar. Gatorade is a soda.
Yeah.
It is a glorified soda. And if I want to drink a soda, I usually don't want a Gatorade, right? I want a Coca-Cola out of a Mexican Coke, right?
So wait, sorry to interrupt. Question. So the minerals and electrolytes found in these waters.
Minerals are electrolytes.
Minerals are
Electrolytes are the electrical signals and ability for the water to actually be processed and used in your body. Sodium, magnesium, potassium, calcium, bicarbonate. These are kind of the main 5 I talk about, but there's hundreds of minerals that are naturally occurring in water and all the food we eat and all the beverages we consume. But when you reverse osmosis that water, which Gatorade is doing, which Coca-Cola, which all these beverage companies do, they source tap water and then purify the heck out of it so it's nothing. So they have a base to start with that is consistent, and they can produce this product all over the world using whatever local water source there is. Yeah, that's distilled water basically. And people do actually make tea and coffee with distilled water because the minerals will affect the taste of that coffee or tea. And so there are use cases for distilled water or very low reverse osmosis. And I'm not saying never drink purified tap water. I was at the sauna the other day. I was like, I don't want to carry my bottle of water. I'm just going to drink their tap water. And I mean, I felt a difference. I can be in the sauna way less if I'm drinking their purified tap water versus this.
No, like you do notice, like you said, like you don't really notice, you think water is water until you taste 2 different things like back to back. And especially when you're experiencing super dehydration and then rehydration, like you feel just every little thing that you're putting through your body, and it's fascinating.
100%. What is the first water you drink when you
the rehydration?
Yeah, what does the rehydration process look like for you?
Well, you got to make sure that you need electrolytes. You need your sodiums and magnesium.
And so how do you get that?
So like we'll make a kind of it's a process. You can't just chug water, because you're gonna get all bloated and stuff. You have 24 hours to kind of recover. So you'll weigh in on Friday and then you'll fight on Saturday. So we kind of like dilute like Pedialyte, or we'll add some glutamine or some creatine or some those element like salt things to some water, and really filter that down so it's like a low concentration, and just sip that slowly more and more until you can hold down water. Because if you just start drinking water and you're just going to start peeing it out and you're not going to retain any of it. I want to make sure that you retain that stuff without like getting too bloated. Some people will get an IV after their dehydration, which is probably smart.
That's probably the move.
Yeah.
And there's like that company Liquid IV, but then they have so much sugar, fake sugars in the actual product. I don't want to fuck up your sponsorships, but I'm so curious to see what would happen if you drank a mineral water for your rehydration process. And look into what mineral water it is and the exact mineral composition of that water. Probably you want something that's, of course it'll have sodium in it. But I think that might be something to kind of test around, because what you're doing is kind of creating a Frankenstein version of that with the Pedialyte.
Yeah.
But what would happen if you had Mother Earth's Gatorade and electrolyte powder, right?
I mean, we can set that up.
Yo, for sure. And what I want to do is I mean, be the official water sponsor of the UFC, or starting with my boy Knife Face over here.
Hell.
And just product testing and getting into this athletic space. We had a former NFL player, 15 years, Roger Saffold, on here, and he has gotten more and more into the hydration component, what exactly is in the water, because it's become more of a conversation in the NFL. I think there's a lot of room for this in the fighting space as well. And the sport has just absolutely exploded.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're the next Sean O'Malley.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll take the belt. Yeah, we're the same weight class. I'll fucking
featherweight.
No, bantamweight.
Okay.
Bantamweight, yeah. I'll fight Sean O'Malley.
Yeah. I think that's going to happen one day.
Yeah.
I sense it.
Yeah.
And so, Sean O'Malley, this is your...
Look out, bud.
This is your call. We have another seat on the pod.
Yes.
But yeah, there's just something about you that I think is super interesting with a lot of the fighters that I've seen. There's an energy behind you. You talk about you making your music. I think about John Cena.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of relationship.
It is. They are synergistic, the music and the fighting.
Yeah.
It's that's been really cool. I mean, just because like I came out here to do music. I had zero intentions of fighting when I moved to LA, and had zero intentions ever. Like I hung up fighting like when I was like 18 or 19. I'm just like,
Why'd you hang it up? Because you're getting too much trouble?
too much trouble, too many injuries. Like I got slammed in the head with a bat and, like broke my orbit. And like the doctor was like it was like my 18th birthday when I was like, all fuckered up. And doc was like, there's another guy like down the hall who, 200-pound man hit in the head with a bat, dead on impact. He's like, I hope you believe in God because this is a miracle. And I was like, and they're like, you cannot fight again. You get hit in the head again, you'll be a vegetable. And I kept fighting, and that's when I started getting sober, because then I had a lot of reason to drink, because like I was talking to like a manager for MMA, and like I was wrestling in high school. Like I was super athlete, and like what some would say, like obviously like a lot of people want to start younger, what have you, but so I had an excuse to drink because I thought that I would never fight again. And so like I just like tried to let that go as much as possible. And when I got sober, I'm like, I have to find a new thing. I'm like, well, I can't fight, I'm just gonna get really good at music. And I just put both feet into music, da 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 da. And my best friend, who like kind of pushed me into music, he ended up passing away. And after that, I was, I just have all this energy still. I'm just like, I'm just go, join a gym, hit the bag. And, I'm hitting the bag, and like people are like, you're really good at this. I'm like, yeah, but, these days are behind me. And like, I'm just like, I was just hitting the bag, and then I was like, I can spar a little bit. And then I was sparring a little bit, and then I got hit in the head, and I was dizzy, and I went home to my old lady at the time, and she was like, yo, you're acting funny, like you're like, a little dazed, like I think you need to go to the hospital. And we went, and I got a CT scan, and they were like, totally healthy brain, totally normal, normal gray matter, normal everything. And I'm like, are you sure? Like I've been hit in the head with a bat, like, and like, like I had a lot of concussions before the bat. The bat was just like the big one, usually like the other stuff is just noise. Like I had a grip of concussions even before the bat. And they were like, nah, couldn't tell from this brain scan. I was like, bet. And I signed up for a fight 2 months later. And so it's like, you know what, dude, like I'm just gonna fucking go for it,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. And
It's so interesting that that doctor said that you were a miracle.
yeah,
That Jason had a similar experience. Has he told you about this experience?
old leg was straight. I remember when when we lived together, during that time when his legs were soaking up full of fluid, and like he would like have to wrap them up, and it was all gross. And like he had like, I don't know how he got laid, but like he looked disgusting. And this was when he was fat too.
And in a halfway house. That is super impressive.
Let's shit on Jason really quick.
Okay, let's crack into the Sokasani first before we do that. Sorry, Jason, preemptively. We love you.
I told him I was gonna defame him.
Well, good. We're sticking to our mission.
Sokasen, superior natural mineral water, rich in essentials minerals for an unparalleled taste. From a volcanic region 20,000 feet, bottled at the source of the Andes Mountains in Peru.
Voila.
Wow.
I think right here, brother, they have a still version of this water. I want you to try this for your next fight on that rehydration process.
May 31st, here in LA,
Yeah.
Commerce Casino, in the Up Next Fighting promotion, I'll bring a bottle.
Yeah.
And we'll test this.
Yeah. Maybe I can get my hands on some of this Adobe spring water by then, because that's dude, just pour some out for the homies.
R.I.P. dog.
Dude, we should just pour some mineral water out for the homies.
I say a little splash.
Yeah, just a little splash. R.I.P.
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, swag. Okay. This one I'm excited about. Should we test it? Or
Oh, we'll test it. Yeah, this is hitting, as the kids say.
extra bubbly.
I don't want to sidetrack you too much on your main mission regarding Jason, but
Oh yeah, let's talk shit about Jake. Oh. Yeah, he was fat. He smoked cigarettes. But no.
fat and cigarettes that's impressive, you know.
Yeah, no.
I gained 20 pounds when I stopped smoking cigarettes, like 5 years into sobriety.
That's how it goes, typical. But anywho, but no, like it was a thing. We were praying for him, you know, because it was a scary. That's a scary thought, you know. Like, and I think about Jason often. I remember when, I don't know how much he talked about or whatever, but like when he got his legs, like the circulatory system kind of like rerouted through his legs so that way he'd get blood flowing to them again.
Wow.
And I might be like completely butchering this story, but at least from memory, he said that they basically like had like hot tubes and like dug in through his legs to like create new pathways for veins. And, you know, early in recovery, you know, they offered him like a benzo or like a pain pill to like, you know, like this is going to hurt. And he's like, no, like I'm going to do that. And he's like, you know, just tough guyed it through. And I was like, that's badass, you know? And I think about that. Like I've broken a few bones in sobriety and like little injuries here and there. And like, I'm just like, man, if he can sit like straight face, getting some hot tubes to rewire veins like through his legs, I'm like, I can tough guy through whatever this is. Like I don't need a pain pill.
Wow. Do you even take Tylenol and Advil and stuff?
I'll do that, you know, but like, you know, like I broke my arm on the same night that I like got the bat, and like, you know, that'll still hurt from time to time. I said I'd never use this arm again, but like it'll.
Here you are.
Yeah,
You using that arm.
I use it to its fullest extent. Yeah, but yeah, you know, like pain is a part of the human experience. We're supposed to feel pain, you know, like it's
Some more than others in different regards.
right, but like it's bananas when I was on pain pills, and like I just thought that like it's like no, I'm just in pain all the time. Like I need these, you know, and I don't. Like I've broke a lot of bones. I think I've had like 14 or 15 broken bones like in my life. And you know, so maybe, you know, chicken or the egg, did I have a taste for pain pills before that, or, you know,
A taste for pain pills.
a taste, yeah, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Or was it like,
that was my jam too.
yeah, it's how a lot of people start, but I don't need them.
Yeah.
You know, like before opiates, what did people do?
Have you gotten into like homeopathic kind of the supplement component of pain relief?
No.
Okay, so there's this thing called arnica. You can take it as tablets. There's also a cream. CBD cream is very good for inflammation. I mean, I have a whole gamut of homeopathic pain relieving situations because I suffered this crazy nerve pain in my mouth, generational trauma situation representing itself. And through this situation, I was unable to drink out of aluminum cans because every time I drank out of an aluminum can, my fucking nerve pain in my tooth would just go absolutely crazy. Well, turns out drinking out of aluminum is directly related to nerve problems.
Whoa.
And so if I drink out of an aluminum can, within an hour, my nerve is hurting. And so that kind of sent me down the rabbit hole. I mean, I almost took a sip with you from the aluminum can because that would have been great. But I'm like, it's just not worth it in the long run. And that sent me down the whole, why are we drinking out of aluminum cans rabbit hole? It's a lot cheaper for people to produce and to transport. That's really what it is.
Speaking of drinking out of cans, I gotta pee again. I know.
Gotta pee again. How about we just wrap the pod?
Okay.
I think we're at about an hour. Sokosani. Shout out to Sokosani.
Thank you.
We got the Knife Pod.
Oh yeah.
Knife Faces podcast.
I'll do that spiel. You to come on Knife Pod, but we're gonna talk dirty.
Okay, we're gonna talk super dirty.
Yeah.
We're gonna get down and dirty. We're gonna have unfiltered raw water. Raw water on Knife Pod.
Yeah. Knife Pod is my podcast. We're gonna be dropping an episode next month. Look out for my album, Knife Face 2, coming out. It should be out right fucking now,
Yeah.
but I think Jason fucked that up for us.
Oh, Jason is the distributor.
Yeah. I'm just gonna blame everything on Jason.
Song with Project Pat.
Song with Project Pat, song with RXK Nephew, 2 songs with prayers. Whole thing was produced by Roz Dilliams. It's been like 4 years in the making. It's a masterwork. And I'm fighting a man in a cage, consensually, May 31st at the Commerce Casino in Up Next Fighting. Bum bum.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. The last thing I'll say is that you were walking up to the apartment and I'm like, I did this. And I'm like, I probably shouldn't. Let's just do this for the. We'll get a photo of this also. I probably shouldn't do this to an MMA fighter. You know?
No, we're good, B.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Episode 7 of Liquid Life Wellness Water. Finish the Sokasani and we out.
Oh.